Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here for another episode of the Dentalflix Uncut podcast. Today, we have Marla, who's coming to us from AcceptCare, and pretty excited to have her on. AcceptCare was showing up in full force at our Delivering Well Summit that we had in Fort Lauderdale. I'm a huge fan of the things that they're doing, and I'm really excited to bring this solution to you to be able to get more patients to be able to help them, right? That's what it's really all about, healing people and helping people to find a way to be able to be healed. And so, Marla, I'd love for you to just come on and let people know a little bit about obviously AcceptCare and all the things that you're doing. And maybe too, even like as you're sharing, like, why you're so passionate about, like, you could have done anything, right? Like you could have worked at any company or done anything. But why are you so passionate about spreading the message and helping practices with AcceptCare?
Right. Great. Yeah. Thank you for having me, Anissa. Your meeting was exceptional, and we really got to connect with a lot of practices there. So appreciate you putting on that event. That was really a good time and great event. AcceptCare is really all about increasing case acceptance in dental practices. When you look at the research, the average practice, and I know these aren't the Anissa Holmes practices, but the average practice is only getting about 35% case acceptance. So for some reason, 65% are walking out the door. And that's really what we've set out to solve with AcceptCare. The reason, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how we're solving that, but you mentioned, why is this so important to me? And so this really does take a personal place with me. As a single mom of 4 kids, I was faced with dental work for one of my daughters at a price tag of about $20,000. And when that treatment was presented to me, it was just presented as, this is what she needs, and it's going to be $20,000. And I remember leaving that practice feeling so defeated. It was never offered to me that, there could be payment plans, there could be financing. I just left knowing that as a single mom of 4, there was no way I could come up with $20,000 at one time, anytime soon. And I just left feeling defeated as a mom and defeated in what my child needed. So this really is personal to me. And I've actually been starting in the orthodontic industry, and now, kind of shifting to where I'm also in the dental industry. But really, the last 20 years of my career have been about helping practices start more smiles, and just really helping connect patients to quality dental care.
So there are obviously many solutions that are out there in the marketplace for people or practices to be able to help patients with patient financing, right? I think the biggest of what I'm seeing challenge is that even though there are solutions, practices are actually not creating a process or a system around presentation of a finance option. It's interesting. When I was actually looking for a car for my kids, right? And it was interesting. The first thing that they did was give me, the finance options, the payment options, right? It wasn't like assuming that I was going to figure out how I was going to put it in my budget, or assuming that I had a credit card, or assuming, right? It was like the process is, right? And then they were able to look at it. I'm like, well, I don't like that interest rate, right? And they're like, what makes more sense to you? Is it the payments or the interest, right? And I'm like, totally the interest, because, maybe I'll keep my cash and I'll finance it, right? But it was part of their process, right? Same thing when we go to look for a home. Interestingly, when I went to do a consultation for, I was considering LASIK surgery. And immediately, as I actually went to apply or sign in and do my new patient forms, there was a form right there, then and there, for me to get pre-qualified. as their process. And now this was a corporate, and I didn't wind up going there because I realized when I got there, this is one of those corporate, I want to find, you know, in my case, you know, a doctor that I would know the same person every time, especially with my eyes. But that being said, you know, it's run by a company of people that know how to run a business, right? Like companies, whether it's going to be corporate dental practices, DSOs, corporate, you know, anything in medical, they know how to run a business, right? And so when you look at these processes and you look at, you know, if you're, for example, solo practice, independent practice, group practices, and you don't yet have this process in place, this is what you need to look at, right? So I'm excited to bring you to those who've not yet heard of AcceptCare, because it's all formulated around a process, right? And a system that makes it part of your daily SOPs, or part of your, you know, your SOPs or standard operating procedures for presenting treatment. So I'd love for you to kind of share a little bit about, you know, what you guys are doing that's not being done by some of the others, and why people are choosing you as a solution, as a one-stop solution for patient financing for their dental practice.
Right. Yeah. So the scenario you just described and that I described in my personal experience is, believe it or not, what is still happening in so many dental practices. And we've gotten to kind of dig into that as we've been, you know, going into offices and telling them about AcceptCare. The reason that's usually quoted is, you know, well, if we present payment options up front, or if we allow them to pay us over time, they're going to choose that instead of pay up, you know, even if they can pay up front, they're going to choose the other. And so it's almost like, I'm going to only present pay in full, and then only if they ask, bring out the other, because they'd rather have the pay in full. But what they're doing is leaving so many patients that are just saying no to treatment because they, you know, they're embarrassed to ask, or those payment options aren't presented up front. So, you know, we went out to solve what we believe are the three big problems that are keeping practices from getting maximum case acceptance. Number one is that all payment options need to be presented every time. So you need to just give the patient what we call open choice. Like, they need to have a pay in full option, perhaps with some discount. They need to have a short-term monthly payment, and then they need to have third party if they need longer to pay. And all of those need to be presented to every patient asking, you know, that needs treatment, you know, probably about $400 or more, because the average consumer, when faced with an unplanned expense of $400 or more, can't come up with it. That's about the mark that the average consumer would struggle to come up with the cash for $400 or more. So that's the first thing, is just getting all the payment options in front of every patient. The second thing is, we believe that a lot of practices, they may have one or two third-party options, but they don't have enough to cover the entire credit spectrum, every credit tier. And so what we've done is we've assembled many lenders to bring to our platform. So every application is actually going out to multiple lenders and bringing back what could be multiple offers for every patient. And then we also have, as kind of a backstop, a company called Compassionate Finance that is taking anyone who doesn't qualify for any of the other credit tiers. Then they will be offered an in-house plan that the doctor will be able to participate in interest on those payments. And we find that the interest offsets the risk. Of course, these are more risky patients, and some of them will not pay. But because the practice is making interest on all of those payments, it's offsetting that. And we're seeing about a 98% collection rate on those compassionate loans that are being selected. So kind of that second bucket is being able to have an offer for every single patient that walks in the door. And then the third thing that we solved with our processes is, if you don't get that same day yes, then the patient is going to be put into an auto follow-up. So they're going to receive text and email reminders one day after they've been recommended treatment, and then every 7 days for up to 90 days after they leave the practice. And so that gets a process started. Every practice plans to follow up and plans to have good protocols in place, but we get busy, you know, life happens and we forget, or we get too busy with something, and a whole day of follow-ups is missed. And So what we've done with AcceptCare is we've automated that process, and then the practice can, you know, kind of customize it by adding in some personal follow-ups as well. But we at least know the patient's being touched. And we've actually found with that third piece, our auto follow-ups, about 24% additional acceptance is happening from home. They're actually getting the text, clicking on it, viewing their payment options, and accepting from home. So then the practice gets a notice that, hey, they're ready to start treatment. And that's creating an additional 24% so far of case acceptance. So that's kind of how it works. It allows a practice via a tablet that we provide to the practice to present all payment options to the patient, which is the pay in full, a short term, and then the third party. And then they can select what works best for their budget. But if they don't accept that same day, they're put in the follow-up process.
I love that it's a system, you know, and the system is choose which one you want. Do you want to pay in full and get a discount? Would you like to do 3 payments? Or would you like to do, you know, again, what's better for you? Is it lower payments, lower interest? And based on that, choosing a third party that will solve that problem. So what I love is that it's simple. Okay. So making everything simple, because typically what happens is you've got a paper over here, the team members got this third party over here, and it's like they're trying to do stuff on Excel and like looking at papers and being able to just say, here are your options. It's all in one spot. All right. So which one of these do you choose? You know, as you know, I teach case acceptance, and that, you know, here's your options. It's just like if I wanted to decorate, you know, my house back here. Like, I love the way my house looks, but I didn't pick out any of this furniture. Fortunately, when I moved in, when I bought the house, I said, don't you want to leave that furniture? Right?
That was smart.
And then, don't you want me to buy it? I'm sure that won't fit into your next house. Right. But if I had to come in here and I had to figure out where to buy this beautiful, comfortable sofa, I'd probably have an empty house for a while because I would just be stuck. I wouldn't know. But if you had, you know, here's a modern option, you know, here's a contemporary option, here's a retro option, right? Or here's the 3 different, you know, here's a IKEA option, you know, here's a restoration hardware option. Which one of these 3 do you choose? And I say, okay, well, I want that one. Then all of a sudden it's easy. And we've got to do the same thing for our patients. Here's your options. What do you choose? Oh, okay, well, I choose that. We've got to make it simple. And let's just talk a little bit about that 4th option, which is patients actually having the practice to be the lender. Okay. Now I must admit, you know, I had an incorrect view about this. And even when we spoke, you know, however long that was last year about this, I said, no, I don't want to talk to my patients about them being them financing. And I said, help me understand why, if you remember this, I said, help me understand why what I'm thinking is incorrect. Like, let me come with a beginner's mindset and let me be open to understand. Right. And so when I listened, I realized, wait a minute, you mean that the practices can become hard money lenders? Right now, my partner, Ray, he's a hard money lender, right? So he's working with people who have maybe exited their company and they've got, 20, 30, 50, 80 million dollars, and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. Well, they go to him, and all of a sudden he's lending out money to people that want to have money to, flip houses and, get, and so they'll say, you know what? I don't even care about, the principal. I will give you my money for 6 months, and I want to have 14% interest, and then they get their money back and they just lend it again. And that's where wealth is made, right? And so it's like, wait a minute. You mean that these doctors are now being able to put their money out as essentially a hard money lender and get interest on it? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Now this is changing everything, right? And the reason why is, as you said before, if you're getting 14 or 12 or 5 or whatever the percentage is, if you're making interest, right? The problem is most dentists will say, you know what, we'll give you a payment plan, and they don't tack on interest. They just say, well, we'll just give you equal payments of X. Well, that's a risk, right? But if every patient you're getting interest on this, right?
Mhm.
You know, I shared this with we had some doctors here at my house, and one of them was like, wait, hold on a minute. I've got $150,000 in AR, but the reason why I have it is because it's for clear aligner cases. Okay.
Mhm.
Now these patients are coming in every month or so. And I was doing it without interest. Wait a minute. What if that $150,000 was gaining me whatever the percentage is, right?
Mhm.
Gaining me 5%, 7%, whatever it's going to be every single month. I'd be making $5,000, $7,000 a month on interest.
That's right.
And so it was like, wait, that's another, like, hold on a minute. And she was like, oh, I'm about to do this right now, right? Because all of a sudden, yes, if somebody doesn't pay their one payment, you know, you lose on that one payment, but that's nothing, right? So again, I just want to put that into perspective, because many of you who are listening, you probably are thinking how I was thinking before, and that's probably because you're not charging any interest. And so what I love as well is that you guys handle the process of setting up the ACH, and really, you know, if payments are not going through, you do the follow-up. You manage the admin, because the team members really in the practice doesn't have time for that. So
Right.
I love that aspect as well. And it doesn't mean that you have to choose that for every service, right? Like you can choose is what you share. Well, no, you can do this for this or not for that, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, some people love the piece so much where they're making the interest that they want that to be a prominent offer every time, you know. Others just say, well, if they don't get offered anything else, you know, I feel safer just for it to come in as a backstop. But you're exactly right. The point is, by the time you're making interest on these accounts, you're covering your risk and collecting. And then if you are also allowing those offers to be accepted in the higher credit tiers where there is hardly any risk, then you are making even more on those accounts.
No, really good, really good. So what's the next steps if people are like, okay, you got my attention now.
Yep.
Right. What's the next steps? How do they learn more, or what's the
Yeah.
process like? Yeah.
Yeah, so we would love acceptcare.com, or you can also go to startmoresmiles.com and just request a demo. We'll show you how everything works, go through the pricing and the training, and just kind of work through all of that with you. And we would love to just, show you how it works.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marla. And guys, I would highly recommend getting in there and seeing the demo and seeing how this can help you. I've seen the inside of it, and it's pretty incredible. So again, thank you so much, Marla, for taking time to be on this Dentalflix Uncut podcast. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Thanks so much.
You've just unlocked valuable insights with Dentalflix Uncut, but there's more. Dentalflix is not just a podcast. It's a thriving community, a hub of knowledge, and the #1 online streaming CE platform in dentistry. With just a few clicks, you can start exploring a wealth of resources, including in-depth training on leadership, case acceptance, scheduling, hiring, weekly marketing calls, insightful gap assessments, and scorecards, all designed to help you master what you discovered today and propel you further on your path to dental excellence. Head to dentalflix.com to get started for free and embark on your journey towards mastery. Thanks for tuning in to Dentalflix Uncut. See you next time.